Live-action puppetry is an art form that's rarely used for mainstream cinema nowadays, but it has a charm and magic to it, a tangibility that makes us believe in a physical presence. However, many assume that puppetry is limited to Thunderbirds or Jim Henson's The Muppets and Sesame Street, when really, puppetry is a very broad filmmaking technique that encompasses not just marionette and hand, but also motor mechanics, bodysuit acting, and remote control animatronics. In this show, I will highlight the best and the worst that puppet cinema has to offer, but trying to keep an open mind about what I count as puppetry. Because when it comes down to it, live-action puppetry is the art of bringing an inanimate object to life while a camera rolls. Welcome, one and all, to the world of Puppet Panic. Howdy folks, Jamboree here. It has been almost roughly 20 years since I last watched Jurassic Park all the way through. It's not like the film didn't make an impact on my childhood, I was completely obsessed with it at the age of 7 or 8. So, after almost 2 decades, I'm finally going to see what I think of Jurassic Park as an adult. When eccentric industrialist John Hammond teams up with the bioengineering company InGen, they end up creating Jurassic Park, a public attraction that will offer visitors the chance to meet real-life dinosaurs, which have been recreated through a cloning process. However, after a staff member is killed by a dinosaur, a lawyer for the park's investors insists that John invites experts to endorse the park. These guests include paleontologist Dr. Alan Grant, paleobotanist Dr. Sattler, plus mathematician and chaos theorist Ian Malcolm, who all go on a tour through the park with Hammond's energetic grandchildren Tim and Lexi. Little does John know, though, that one of the park's computer programmers, Dennis Nedry, has been bribed by a rival company to steal embryos from them. In order to get away with his crime, Nedry shuts down the security system of the park, which means that the carnivores can escape past the electric fences. Can our heroes survive being in a park where hungry meat-eating creatures are on the loose? This is a film that openly explores the pluses and minuses of a dinosaur theme park. It celebrates the magnificent spectacle of these breathtaking prehistoric creatures, while also showing how amazing it would be for humans to interact with them. But it also addresses the moral implications of playing God, the dark side of recreating an extinct race of creatures for public entertainment. I love seeing our heroes being conflicted over their introduction to Jurassic Park. They are overwhelmed by what this means for science, especially the ones who have studied dinosaurs for years, but they also openly criticize the inherent problem with the park. It's this duality of feelings that adds a realistic dimension to our protagonists, showing that they don't have one-track minds, they are human beings with complicated internal thoughts. Of course, by the film's end, the final conclusion is that Jurassic Park is a terrible idea, but we still can't help being enchanted by the concept in principle, especially when the park's creator, John Hammond, expresses his sincere passion for this dream theme park of his, as he naively and stubbornly insists that it will somehow work.
Hiring Nedry was a mistake, that's obvious. We're over-dependent on automation, I can see that now. Now the next time, everything's correctable.
John.
Creation is an act of sheer will. Next time it'll be flawless.
It's still the flea circus. It's all an illusion.
When we have control again.
You never had control, that's the illusion.
While the verdict is that Jurassic Park was a premise that was set to not work, there is a tragedy to its failure, because we know how much it means to John and acknowledge the lengths he's gone to bring his vision to life. Sometimes we can get so swept up in a dream project that we forget to bring our moral compass along the way, engulfed in the fun and magic of bringing our ideas into fruition, and we feel like we don't have time to contemplate the ethics. This is when opposing voices can be very crucial. I was totally engaged in the discussion between John and his guests, wanting to hear all sides of the debate and eager to know how each person felt about Jurassic Park being built. I couldn't help but be charmed by John's enthusiasm and pride, but at the same time, I knew that the other characters were right about how wrong the project felt.
The world has just changed so radically, and we're all running to catch up. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but look. Dinosaurs and man, 2 species separated by 65 million years of evolution, have just been suddenly thrown back into the mix together. How can we possibly have the slightest idea of what to expect?
As the tour of the park goes on, it becomes clearer and clearer how flawed the concept is in practice. The cracks start to show. Something that may sound awesome on paper can be totally different once in execution. It's especially creepy how Spielberg chooses not to show the carnivorous dinosaurs just yet, keeping them hidden and off-screen while the guests explore the park. Much like how the shark in Jaws is underwater for most of the movie, it's the same horror filmmaking technique. But then, once the dinosaurs escape, Spielberg takes pleasure in tormenting the hell out of us, unforgivingly teasing us with slow pacing and a tense atmosphere that's so painful. Every carnivore is spine-chilling in their very presence, from the enormously dominating T-Rex, who is unstoppable in nature, to the cunningly intelligent velociraptors, beasts that take advantage of whatever they learn. Whenever these creatures are on screen, it's a shock to our nervous system. I froze in anticipation the moment one of them came closer to a human. It's unbearable how genius Spielberg can be when it comes to creating tension. Credit should also be given to John Williams' sweeping music score, which reflects the awe of seeing grandiose-sized dinosaurs being brought to life and the wondrous excitement of hosting them in a theme park. It's hard to forget that fantastic theme song. But Williams also knows how threatening and horrifying these animals can be, using sharp orchestral sounds to mess with our fears.
Mr. Hammond, I think we're back in business.
But our human characters aren't all simply entree to be served on plates for our dino villains. No, they're all fleshed out. They have unique personalities, personal feelings, and relationships with each other. Grant is a man who is against the idea of having children with his girlfriend Ellie, but as he bonds with Hammond's grandkids, he starts developing paternal feelings, endeared by the challenge of looking after them. I couldn't help but melt when he cuddled up with them on top of a tree as the three fell asleep together. It's a beautiful moment where a grumpy man loosens up and comes to terms with his relationship with children. Ellie isn't relegated to just being the love interest. She's a compassionate and energetic scientist who isn't afraid to get her hands dirty and has a genuine love for these creatures. She isn't all heart though. She is strong enough to take on the challenge of switching the power back on in the park, even shaking off John's sexist assumption that she may not be able to handle it.
But it ought to be me really going.
Why?
Well, I'm and you're
Look,
Come on, let's go.
we can discuss sexism and survival situations when I get back. You just take me through this step by step. I'm on channel 2.
She really is one of the major heroic forces in the film's adventure. Malcolm is a very cocky mathematician who knows how smart and witty he is, even using his charm to woo Ellie, ignorant to the fact that she's dating Grant. However, behind his rockstar bravado is a good man. He does bravely distract the T-Rex away from everyone, only to end up being injured, and he still has the energy to help instruct Ellie on how to reboot the park's power, as beaten up as he is. It does help that Malcolm is played by the always charismatic Jeff Goldblum.
If I may, I'll tell you the problem with the scientific power that you're using here. It didn't require any discipline to attain it. You know, you read what others had done, and you took the next step. You didn't earn the knowledge for yourselves, so you don't take any responsibility for it. You stood on the shoulders of geniuses to accomplish something as fast as you could, and before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it. You want to sell it. Well,
Tim and Lexi are some of the best child characters I've ever seen. They act just like real kids, being annoyingly chatty and arguing with each other as siblings do, but they're not useless or unlikable. Tim's passion for dinosaurs is very cute, reminding me of my own dinosaur phase as a kid, and it's his wide knowledge of prehistoric animals that can make him a helpful character. While Lexi does have her moments of fear, it's entirely understandable considering her situation. She does courageously try to draw a velociraptor's attention away from her brother in one scene. Plus, she has an interest in computing, which plays a big part in saving the day in the finale, empowering little girls watching the movie, letting them know that they too can play the role of the heroic engineer. Now, does this film have a body count? Oh sure. At first I assumed that the movie only wanted to kill people out of karma, because the victims included a greedy lawyer who only cares about making money from the park than the moral implications of running it. He's given a rather humiliating death, plus Nedry is made to suffer for his crimes. But then, once the more sensible and good-hearted characters become victims, it feels like all cards are off the table. Anyone can die, and we begin to start fearing for our heroes, because we now know that this isn't karma acting in revenge, it's a serious game of survival. So you may be asking, where does puppetry come into all this? Well, originally the dinosaurs were going to be animated through stop motion, and animator Phil Tippett was brought in to do them. However, Spielberg's biggest interest when it came to this film was trying to make dinosaurs come to life in the most realistic way possible, and unfortunately, stop motion, while as charming as it is, has an inherent jerkiness to it. So Phil's team was instead assigned to supervising the dinosaur animation through armature to CGI technology and stop motion animatics. Then Spielberg brought in Industrial Light and Magic to do computer-animated dinosaurs and hired Stan Winston to provide puppetry. For its time, the computer animation for this film is incredible. Sure, it's not perfectly composited or flawlessly lit, and yes, the rendering could be more realistic in places, but considering the stage that CGI was at in 1993, it's amazing that it leapt this far ahead. Most notably, the dinosaur's movement is authentic as hell. It's more than clear that thorough attention was put into making the dinosaur animation look believable. Stan Winston's puppets are some of the best I've ever seen. Just look at how much work was put into them. The T-Rex animatronic was a whopping 17,500 pounds and stood at 20 feet, which helped to give a realistic weight to her movement when being puppeteered. The sickly Triceratops animatronic has so much organic detail, from the lifelike tongue to its heavy breathing. Even the actors on set fell for the puppet's authenticity. The Velociraptors, which were hand puppeteered, are effectively scary. The puppeteers do a great job taking time to build natural animalistic behavior within their hand acting. I'll admit that I sometimes could tell a hand was in a Velociraptor's head for some shots, but for the most part, it's very patiently choreographed. I do think that the CGI and puppetry don't cross over as smoothly as people praise the film for. I can always tell which technique is being used. Both mediums have very obvious visual traits that are hard to miss. Despite that, when a shot goes from a computer-animated dinosaur to a puppet, it's not jarring enough to the point where it stands out dramatically, as care has gone into making the dinosaur designs for both techniques look consistently identical. To conclude, Jurassic Park is a Hollywood classic, a true game changer for its time. It pushed computer visual effects 3 steps ahead and proved that puppetry could still be believable at a time when CGI was beginning to dominate. But it's not all about fancy special effects. This is also a movie with a profound message about playing God, with 3-dimensional characters that we become attached to and root for. There's a reason this film has stood the test of time. It's one hell of a masterpiece in American filmmaking. I've been Jabberiki and I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. Also, please consider supporting me by making a monthly pledge to my Patreon in return for awesome rewards. Thank you. So, what am I going to be reviewing in the next episode of Puppet Panic? Well, this will be the season finale, so I thought I would discuss one of the biggest blunders in puppet cinema: Howard the Duck. Cheerio, folks.